And I am the child of Back to the Land hippies. And so how I got into this was, my parents had this 180-acre ranch in Idaho. Fast forward to like the 90s, I'm like living in Seattle. Then I started, kind of gardening some more. It was like trying to dig out that knowledge from my head from my parents, but I couldn't really remember most of it. And so I had to just relearn by just doing it. And I moved to Oakland, and then I found this whole world of people who were like calling themselves urban farmers, and they were doing all this like radical stuff. And then I actually wrote a book about my experiences because I started raising pigs, and it was a very popular book. And David Silver, who's a professor here at USF, invited me to do a talk. And from there was this guy who was the garden manager guy, Justin. And he was like, yo, I'm going to start a farm. I'm leaving. Do you want would you want to take this job? And I was like, oh yeah, are you kidding me? I get to play with college kids and I get to grow food. That I get my own little tiny greenhouse. Yes, I want it. So, and so I've been here for 7 years now as the garden manager, caretaker person.
So my name is Rachel Brand. I am adjunct here at USF in Environmental Studies. So a long time ago, when I was first out of college, I started volunteering actually at a middle school called the Edible Schoolyard. And it was a project where at the middle school, King Middle School, they had a garden on the campus. So it was like, suddenly kids were eating kale or that kind of thing that maybe they wouldn't normally have wanted to try. I was doing all this hands-on work and teaching, and then I got really interested in kind of like understanding more broadly about agriculture systems and food systems and equity and kind of like the societal approach kind of to what we were doing with the students, with the kids. So I actually went back to grad school in sociology. And then after that, I came back and just started teaching.
I think like at the beginning when I first started working here, I had already done a lot of farming. I wasn't really, it wasn't like a new thing, but it was the actual working together with so many people, because I used to just do everything by myself. But now I got the baseball team over there pulling up all my weeds. I'm like, yes, this is awesome.
It's funny because the individual importance is actually the community aspect. Like you could see it today, right? All of us being here and being able to do something no matter how we want to do that, be it packing the seeds or weeding, but we have this communal experience.
So I found like community, just like historical community in my brain. But then of course, obviously there's people coming in here. I've had amazing students who do awesome work, or they're just like, they have an idea, they want to do herbalism in the garden, or they want to, I don't know, like graft fruit trees, or, whatever the thing is that they're like on fire about, then that's what we're going to do. When I first started working here, I was just kind of like trying to just grow as much food as possible and just do a good job. And then I started to realize there's all these nuances to learning about gardening, right? So like, what kind of gardening are you teaching? Like, is there, and there's all this like racial stuff about it too. Like you think of like, all these white organic farmers, and it really becomes this a stumbling point of like, that's not true. Like, so like unpacking all of that and understanding the roots of like agriculture and organic agriculture in America is actually indigenous, and it's people of color and African, and so you're like, oh wow, there's so much to learn. So there have been amazing, leaders in the field, especially in Detroit, where there's like all these awesome Black urban farmers who are just like, we're growing this food because we need to be healthy, and we need to control our destiny, and we need to control our choices about the land.
Food sovereignty, the way I would define it, is having one's own ability to have the food, have the land, be able to grow the food that's right for oneself, as opposed to being in a corporate structure where you're only receiving what's available to you, what you have access to, but having more community power or sovereignty over food.
Food sovereignty is huge. I think sometimes we can get caught up in this idea of like the cute little world of like, I'm growing little gem lettuces, they're so delicious. And that all comes out of the sort of Alice Waters, Chez Panisse model of thinking about food. And then there's this other end, which is like the Campesina group, where it's like, we're growing food because we actually need to be able to grow our own food to control our destiny, right? And I experienced that when I lived in Oakland because it was all about food insecurity. People didn't have access to food that was healthy and fresh, but also they weren't able to grow their own food too. You know, you had to just go to the store and buy some potato chips.
So I think that that's where it is for me, is just being able to like have a community that we build around something that's really good for people, good for our minds and our health and our bodies, where we can interact and we can have that feeling of sovereignty. Like, we grew this, you know, it's our communal experience.
For me, it's just, I can use the garden as a classroom, and so that it can teach so many lessons about like diversity, the importance of diversity in plantings, in insects, in people, right? And we see the way that white supremacist capitalist systems work. It destroys the soil, it destroys the land. It's not stewarding land, it's just taking from Mother Earth and not giving anything back. So that's like the hugest thing that we have to work through as humans to turn the planet around, really.